Hello guys and welcome to the dojo. First of all, we want to thank our supporters on Patreon who help in keeping the dojo running. If you love what we're doing, support the channel. You can get coached by our professional coaches in return.
Hi, and what do we have here?
We have a Zarya on King's Row, played by me, the Mr. Baggins. Pretty fancy.
Okay, so I suppose that this is a placement match.
Yes, we did. Here, I think this is about the fourth one. Because I only had 8 more left, so I think this is the fourth one.
Okay. All right. Let's see what is going on here. So, what do you think went wrong here? What do you think that you need to work on if you have to give a read about your performance?
Honestly, I don't know. I was going to kind of sound selfish, but I don't know what I personally could have done differently, because our main issue was we weren't able to take advantage of them being all, like, later on we'll see they have a Bastien. That's what screwed us over the biggest. But I don't know what I personally could have done, because playing a tank, I mean, I could have tried to go road and hook him out, but they had a Reinhart on him constantly. So that wasn't really going to work. I guess I could have tried to get the team to go in a different direction, take more of a point on things, but I don't know. It all happened so fast.
All right, let's see this then. Okay, so you have a Reinhart, you have a Brig. I'm not sure about the rest of the team, but we'll see soon. There's an Anna, that's for sure. I can see the scan lines.
Yes.
Regarding your DPS, I don't know anything yet.
Trying to remember. I think we might have had a soldier.
Torbjorn. That's the
Oh
one.
yes, I think we might have.
And Doomfist. Okay, let's go back to the beginning here. Okay, so you have Torbjorn and the Doomfist for DPS, Anna and Brigitte for the supports, and Reinhart as the main tank. Okay, so what do you pay attention to with a comp like this when you are defending?
Well, currently with the I focus right now on who's on point with me, because that's where everybody's headed. Torbjorn's out of my sight, but if I go to look at him, I'm then exposing myself to the enemy team. So I just kind of focus on the Rhine and the Brig. And if I kind of see out of the corner of my eye that Torb or Doomfist is low, I'll try and help them out, but my main focus is the ones directly by me.
All right, good. So what you are doing here is nicely done. You don't want to be in the line of sight of the snipers if they have one, so this is a good positioning just behind the wall. You are going to be able to see anybody moving past here, maybe to the top. Too much drawing on the screen, so moving past maybe to the top to drop them down there. Sometimes enemies pull off Bastien comps, going to the high ground and setting up there, so you might just be able to spot it from here. And also it gives you a good line of sight of the choke if they decide to push in, so this is good. And what you were telling about the Torbjorn, that's another great thing, that you don't want to expose yourself or your DPS. You don't have to safeguard them right now. And what is the thing that you are focusing on in the beginning of any match with Zarya?
Well, as Zarya, I'm focusing on trying to get some early charge, see where they're gonna focus fire anywhere, and if so, try and absorb as much of that as possible, so I have something for the start of the fight.
That's right. Okay, good.
And also just try and gain a little bit of intel since I'm up front.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, because having more information will allow you to be at the right places if you want to gain charge from the enemy team. But let's see how it goes. So they have a Junkrat and the Pharah.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
I should theoretically be able to get quite a bit of charge pretty easily, as long as they're not paying attention.
Yep. Anything else?
I'll be severely damaged if I wait too long taking the damage. need to be careful of staying out in line of sight too long.
Okay, regarding team movements and how you work against each other or with your teammates?
Just stay with the Rhine because he's going to be my biggest shield against all that. And I can also utilize him to take most of my absorption for me.
All right. Yes, okay. Because you don't have a real hit scan, to say, you are going to have a hard time against Pharah as a team. You have the Ana, so she might be able to do some damage to the Pharah. That is, if they don't have a Mercy. You don't see that yet. I think there is going to be the Mercy soon, showing her face.
Yes.
So you have a Doomfist that is basically hard countered by the Pharah. If there are only a few Doomfists who can pull off killing a Pharah in the air, but it's really hard to do. So Doomfist needs to be aggressive in a situation like this in order to make any difference in the game, or else he is just a sitting duck waiting for the Pharah to kill him. So it might be a good idea right here to maybe look around for the Doomfist, because if he realizes that this is the case, he's going to be aggressive and he needs the shields to be able to safely get out if he jumps in the enemy team. But these are...
So you'd use it for the out, not the in.
Depends on the enemy comp, mostly. Okay. If they don't have stuns, then the Doomfist, or if the Doomfist launches in from an angle that they can't see, then yes, keeping it maybe to the end of his impact when he is already in the face of the enemy, but not using it preemptively, because it will give an easier target for the enemies if they see a big bubble approaching them. So right at the end when he approaches the enemies, or a bit later if they don't have stuns, if you are just mitigating damage. Okay, but what you said about being with the Reinhart, that is fine, and that's how you should do it. Okay, so bubble control, really important aspect of Zarya's play. Tell me everything about, about how to control the bubbles.
Well, right here, I was expecting them to have more of a barrage coming in pretty quickly from the junk and the Pharah, at least on the Rhine. But I tend to misjudge that quite a bit as to when they're going to do their barrage, so I always end up without the bubble. But typically you want to... I try and keep it until he's already taken some damage and I can see there's a lot coming, and then I give it to him. But there are quite a few times where I do it preemptively, thinking that maybe I can get the preemptive going, but it does work out.
Okay, yeah, that is the key aspect of the bubble control, to make sure that the enemy is already committing to the fight, to making damage, because if you do this without knowing that the enemy is actually shooting at you, they can just use your preemptive bubbles to bait utility from the team, and this should allow them to maybe charge in with the Reinhart, because you won't be able to protect your Reinhart. Stuff like that can happen. So yes, it is a tricky game where you have to balance between farming, charge, and making sure that you have the utility for the teamfight that your main tank needs. So when they are this far away, and when your Reinhart is using his brains and pulling back, making sure that there is still space between you and the enemy team, you can just go for farming the charge. And that's fine, because they are still far away. But still you need to make sure that they are committing damage, because if you don't do that, then it will just go to waste and you won't get any charge from it, like it happened here. Also, you could go a little bit earlier with your bubbles, so they started doing damage right to the point. You can just stab in it with your personal shield, for example here, or in the Pharahs. Push in front of the Reinhart a bit, just to eat some damage and just to make sure that you have your personal shield. And it is safe to do that here if you see that they have this kind of comp where they do a lot of damage, but it is not a high peak potential. They are going to be able to do a lot of damage to you if you stay there, so you have to quickly pull back behind the shield. But it's not like they have a Hanzo who can headshot you after 2 grenades from the Junkrat and you are dead. So
Yeah.
you can count on the rhythm of their damage, so you won't be surprised by some shenanigans here. So it's safe to just go there, farm some charge, pull back, and use these early, just to make sure that you have enough damage and that your right clicks are actually scary, because when you don't have any charge, then the enemies can just basically ignore them. Okay, as usual, if you have any questions during any explanation or something like that, make sure to ask me. Anything that comes to your mind.
At this point, normally I would stand in front of the Rhine. I've done that on a lot of occasions, but here I don't know if they have a sniper yet. I've only seen 2 of them. So I'm not comfortable at this point to get in front of my Rhine and sacrifice myself.
Okay, yeah, you shouldn't sacrifice. That's true.
And also, I was already over here, and the shots were going way wide of me, so I wasn't gonna go out of my way to get all the way over there.
Okay, it's just a thing that if you wait for too long, you won't be able to farm charge with your abilities, and that can be an advantage for the enemy team. So hiding information is also a tool that they can use against you. All right, let's see how it goes then. Pushing in. Nothing special here. They are already baking the shield, so that is a thing with a comp like they have a lot of damage that they can directly apply to the shields, and you should be aware of that. You should be aware of your Reinhart not going to be able to fight the shield battle, because your team will always lose it, because you don't really have anything to break shields, because Doomfist is not good at that. Torbjorn is somewhat good, but is not enough. He can't compare to Junkrat and Farah.
Yeah.
And that is important, because the Reinhart, if the shield is breaking all the time, the Reinhart will be passive, and you can't, or in most cases, the Reinharts will be passive, and you can't really count on his aggression. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Okay. So right here, around here, when they are already pushing in, what is going on in your mind?
Just basically deciding where everybody's going to be going. Trying to figure out where they're going to end up being.
Okay.
But I am more focused on the ones directly in front of me and not worrying about anything else. So slight tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But,
not a bad deal here, because you are still around the team, but you don't really know what is going on the right side. And this is when they just come through the hotel there, that is the usual place where they will just flank your supports and get rid of your healing. So as Zarya, it is important to always try to figure out what the enemy wants to do, because you have your projected shield and also your own. This can be used to just step in the back line and defend against any flankers who come around. So yeah, you don't really have anything to throw at the Farah. You can annoy her, but it's basically wasted. It would be a lot more important to pay attention to where they are and to make sure that you are not getting caught off guard or from behind. Okay, picks are good. Okay, the calls were nicely done here. I really like that the Reinhart charged and basically messed that up, and then you called it to finish him as soon as possible. That's a good one. They already lost the Mercy, so you don't have to pay attention to that. That was fine. But after this one, it's basically a fight that can still go to any side. And I think that you are exposing yourself a little bit too much by going on a point.
Yeah,
and again,
I am.
dueling with the Pharah. It's not because you can't do that. You could do that with more charge. Zarya can just trigger through the Pharah with like 50 or more charge, but you don't have your shields, so you can't really hide from her direct damage, and that is, well, that is dangerous. That is not something that you want to fight against. Okay, so this is the mistake here. Not that you are going against the Pharah, but that you are doing that with without your abilities. And you actually had in the last second or half second before you died, you had it ready right here. So one thing that I recommend here is, this is because tunnel vision, so you are at 1 health, so you could just die to anything. It's the most important thing is to stay alive. You can just hold down the shift in a situation like this, and right when the ability kicks in, you are going to be able to use it.
So basically, when I realize I'm getting close, I should just instantly smash down on it and just hold it there.
Yes, it's like,
if I plan on doing anything weird like this.
Yeah, it's like it's a safety net, so to say. A good habit to get into when you get in the midst of the enemies, and you don't have to think about how you use the ability, because you are just too close to dying. You will use it at the first moment possible, because you can just die to random damage below like 100 health. So yeah, it's like Tracer's E when she is slapped by Diana. You just hold down the E to recall as soon as possible, maybe being able to survive.
So that's how they do it. I see.
Yeah, that is something that you can get used to. It helps in a lot of situations that are like this when you're in the midst of the enemy. Usually you want to control, you want to have a finer control over your abilities. You want to make sure that you give it to the right ones and you use it in the right time. But in a situation like this, it's fine. Just, I don't know, with your elbow, go down on the shift. That's it. Okay, so yeah, exposing yourself a bit too much, not using your main tank who was around still. There is also a mistake. You always want to make sure that you are, not always, but in most situations, you want to make sure that you are behind your Reinhart. If you don't see his rear, then you won't be able to protect him against, I don't know, Brig stuns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's generally advised to stay behind the main tank. Oh, that was a nice one. Okay, this was nicely done here. The movement. Reinhart started to charge in. I'm not sure if this was intentional, but I think it was. Just from the movement. He started to charge in, and you wanted to step in between.
Yes, I was trying to take it, because I didn't know if Brig had her shield bash or anything. And I've forgotten they changed it to where she can counter the charge.
Okay, good. This was really nicely done. This is a good reaction. One that can save a teammate, and it also baits the Reinhardt deep into your team without taking any damage, so this is well done. This is a good usage of the shield that you have. Okay, let's see that again. I'm interested in the projected shield. I think the Reinhardt is still not being critical, so you could just held it for a little longer. He still has the shield, he has supports behind him, so unless you just want to make sure that you have enough charge to kill these two.
I was trying to get charged, and I was trying to allow him to be more aggressive against the purple Rhine.
Okay.
To allow him to do more DPS at that moment in time.
Alright, that's fine. That's fine then.
Which he then took.
Yeah. You can, in a lot of situations, you can motivate your teammates with a well-placed bubble, so that is fine. Okay, that was a good shield. Zarya is charged, and you want to make sure that she is dead. Well done. Doofus is doing a lot of work. That's really good.
Yeah, Doomfist wasn't doing too bad until they realized he was doing things.
I mean, he's countered by the Pharah, but he moves around her, so...
And then our Torb has switched to McCree at this point, I do believe, is what I just saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the old things. So, do you keep ultimates in mind, or try to do that?
I try to, but I always end up thinking about it after I've already been eliminated. Then I kind of think, okay, so what do they have at this point? Or if there's just if we've just wiped them, then I kind of think, okay, we use this if we used anything, or if they use something, what else did they not use?
Okay.
But it's not a constant thing in my mind. No, Ryan's Shatter did not come to mind.
Yeah. All right. So to keep track of these things, I think this is the correct place. The easiest thing is to keep track of the enemy ultimate who is playing on the same role as you. So that should be the main tank and the off tank, because you are seeing them most of the time, and you are going to be able to tell if they are doing well or not, because they are going to be dead most of the time, or you are going to be dead. And it's easier to keep that in mind compared to DPS, for example, because you don't always see what the DPS lands and how much damage they do to your team and stuff like that. So it's a rule of thumb that every hero is going to have his ult in every 2 team fights, and as they didn't use their main tank ults, it's likely that they are going to have it soon, because you are also nearing it, so this is a good comparison.
Okay, so after 2 fights, they'll probably have it.
Yeah, you should
generally
be more alerted. Yes, if they didn't use it into team fights, then you should start thinking about their movements, about how they act, because if you see something like the Reinhart does here, he is pushing in really aggressively, dropping the shield even for 2 seconds to be able to get into a good angle and to shatter. So you can prepare for these kind of movements more easily if you keep in mind what kind of ults they could have in the next team fight. Okay, so you are, yes. Okay, let's see this again. So what is going on here? What are you doing?
I was figuring we could take out the 2 main tanks and then we would have an easier time, but I did not realize that my Brig and my Doom were already dead.
Not watching the kill feed? Yes, tunnel visioning again a little bit.
So, yes, I do that a lot.
Yeah, okay, I can see that's an issue. That's an issue that you can work on if you really just pay attention not to do that. But I will just go over that in a little bit, or maybe towards the end, because I want to see how this manifests in different situations. Now, what was happening here? You went with the Reinhart, and that's fine, because as we were discussing, it's a good idea to go with the Reinhart in most cases. But this is a bad position for him. Can you tell me why?
Well, he's being cornered and he's got coalescence on him, so technically the other Rhine could theoretically survive depending on what mine Rhine's health is at. So he could just be pinned between 2 enemies really easily.
That's right. So moving towards this part is bad because he is being cornered. Okay, anything else?
It's just generally not a good area to be in, really.
You are also separated from the rest of the team when you get behind a wall like this, so you won't be able to get any sustain from the supports. Basically, if you step behind a wall as a tank like this, if you don't think about the line of sight of your supports, then you are not allowing them to do their jobs. They won't be able to help you. And the Reinhart made the mistake to push in here, and this might not be a mistake, so to say, because he wanted to clear the enemy Rein and maybe then get back to the team. Breaking the line of sight can be fine sometimes. He wasn't expecting the coalescence. He could just easily win this battle otherwise.
Yeah.
But what you are doing here is following the Reinhart. That's fine, bubbling him, and then turning. And this was well done, that you are seeing that the enemy team is committing heavily to kill your Reinhart and pull back a bit and then start. I mean, you farm a lot of ult on this Zarya because she's not paying attention to you. So this was done nicely. But you should not follow this up this deeply. Your Reinhardt
after the Zarya, just leave.
Yes, that's right. You're in
basically
too
once
deep.
I saw my teammate was down.
Yep. Or, I mean, it's really hard for Reinhardt to survive against this. So bubbling him, you got a little bit of extra charge. You can also farm the ult, maybe get a pick, but you should just get the hell out of here. You can't really salvage this situation. And it's the best thing to do to just flee. Because
the better option would have been just to nade in there and retreat instead of trying to beam.
Yes, that's why you have the right clicks. It can do more damage to the bulk of the enemy team because they are grouped closely together. So yeah, pulling away is a tool that you can use and that you should use in fights like this. So this.
Now, would you take the left way out, or like which would theoretically be the best way out of this?
I mean,
if I were to have backed all the way out, would I just go directly to the big health, or? Yeah,
from here to the mega. It depends on if you have the Ana behind you, because she will be able to heal you. You also have extra armor, your energy, you also have your shield, so you should be fine backing just straight off towards your team. Yeah, if you were lower, then maybe go and break the line of sight as soon as possible and go to the left.
Okay.
But here, yeah, I wouldn't worry about this. Just go straight towards the team. Yeah, so this stepping in too deep. This was the mistake. I believe in discussing these kind of mistakes in length, because we could just say that yes, you went in too deep, but that wouldn't explain why you did that. And I believe that it is helpful to get to know why you decided like that and to figure out how to do it better next time. All right. Okay. So yeah, your team is trickling heavily here.
Yes.
And that's kind of bad. The Doomfist just arrived to die. And it is this is why you need to make sure that you watch the kill feed, because it can tell you that you shouldn't even show your face. If you see that the team is dying, like they have 2 picks, then and you have none, it's really a good idea to just die right away if you are too close to the enemies, or pull back if you can, because it will help in regrouping and in making sure that the enemies will have a fight for the point. Because if you are trickling, they can just push freely. It's not your... I mean, you can't really do much about that if your team is working like that. It's just generally also your job to watch the kill feed and not to make the same mistake as the rest of the team does.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to do here?
I'm attempting to give the 2 teammates who died a chance to get back, and then even if I die, hoping that maybe my team can find a pick from any damage I did while I was holding that point. So hoping that I can stall enough, because my Reinhart isn't coming up. He was very passive in this game. He's like a passive aggressive. Is weird. It's a style I hadn't seen before, where he plays passive and then he just randomly goes aggressive.
Yeah.
Normally I run into either of the extremes. I don't really run into a mix. So I was just trying to take the place of the Reinhart, where normally he'd be up here trying to stall it out a little bit, and I'd be helping him in that situation.
Okay, somehow you survived with like 30 HP.
Yeah, Anna ended up nading me, which I wasn't counting on.
Yeah, so you came out from this well. The Reinhardt was setting up close to the point, so I think he just wanted to make sure that you get back, the rest of the team gets back, and then hold the point towards the end here. It's a riskier thing to do, but you can't really fight them earlier.
Yeah.
So I would advise not going ham like this, not going right in the middle too early. Rather make sure that this is getting to the point where you have to touch the payload, and if the Reinhart doesn't do that, then you should, but not before this point. You just want to make sure that it is held, but you shouldn't expose yourself, because they are doing free damage to you.
Yeah.
And that could help them to, farm a support ult and push the point with that.
I wasn't even thinking we had a Lucio, so even if we were back a ways, we could have just boosted in and we would have been fine.
Okay. Another thing here is, if you imagine yourself being the attacker here and you see a Zarya going in like this, what do you expect?
Sometimes the grab, it depends on what I see behind her. If I don't see many people around her, I'm going to assume she's trying to stall, which is what I was doing. But normally I don't expect a big grab out of it half the time. Normally it's a stall. Because every time I run into a Zarya launching her ult, it's always with her group. She's not really ever just coming up on her own.
Yeah, that's a good scenario that you're looking for as Zarya, because if you don't have the follow-up, then it just goes to waste. I mean, you can stall with it for some extra seconds, but it's not too much. Yeah. We were able to set it up nicely and also survive with the help of your healer, so that was fine. I think he went a bit too deep there. Let's just go back. So right here, you could just stay right at the edge of the payload, using it to break the line of sight of most of the enemies, dance around it, so to say, because nearly everyone was able to damage you here. And that's, I mean, your goal was to stall and also to be able to place the ult well somewhere, but you should keep in mind that they can do a lot of damage. So if you go too close, then you could just die before you can use it. You were really close to that. So I would recommend not going in this deep when you are trying to stall a point. Rather, try to stay at the edge, and that might just pull in your teammates as well, because you are being booped in the middle of the enemy team, and they were doing a lot of damage to you.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't really know the radius of the payload.
Okay. Well, this is a thing that you need to get comfortable with. Basically, it's this kind of distance. I think it's 5 meters or something. You can check that in a custom game mode easily, where you are near enough to the payload that you stall it or that you push it. I think it's like this distance. You'd have to.
Okay, so it's the same for attack and defend.
Yes. I think so, yes. From this position, you'd have to step like 2 steps closer, but we can see that in the video, so let's just try to check it. To see when you start stalling it. It was there.
Yeah, I wasn't really super close to it. So it's a decent distance.
It's like here, yeah. It's more like 3 meters, but yeah, you don't have to touch it, so to say. Staying on the edge, hiding from the other. So this side might be a better position because you are not exposed to the Ana, for example. But when you are dancing there, they're exposed to everyone. Okay. And that's that's a grab that you were keeping and using it here, trying to stall the point. I think that was fine. Gave an opportunity for the rest of the team to just wipe the enemies. You were able to do a lot of damage.
And getting 2 ults out of them was pretty nice too.
That's right. That's also an important thing. Okay. How do you use the time between team fights?
Usually, like I said before, after a team fight, I kind of think of what they just used and what they still have left. So there, I knew they used Farah and they used Zarya. So I'm probably figuring they're gonna have a Rhine for the next one. I don't know if I mentioned it in team chat, but
okay.
At this point, I'm fairly certain they've got a Rhine. And I honestly don't really think about supports that often, which I know I should, but those ults rarely come to mind. So I should be thinking that Anna probably has hers as well, and they still have a Moira at this point, so they'll probably have Coalescence. They probably had Coalescence last fight.
Okay, so keeping a tally of the ultimates, that's fine. Any other?
Well, you'd probably want to discuss where you're going to set up if you're going to try and group up in an area and try and deathball them, or if you want to somewhat spread out so you can be prepared for, say, a Earth Shatter so you don't all get caught.
Okay, yeah, because you judged that they might have Shatter. Communicating with a team is a good way to avoid most of the damage, or to make sure that the Reinhart is prepared to hold the shield for it, or to try to bait it. Fine. Okay, anything else?
Not really. Just probably thinking about where they're going to come from, but on King's Row, especially with this comp, it's typically main.
Yes, they are going to just push main, most likely. What you can do here is press tab a little bit more actively, because they could just swap to something else, something that you are not expecting.
Yeah, I tend to do that when things get too hectic and I'm trying to see or think of a way to deal with it. I don't really do it too actively until it gets really intense, where I probably shouldn't be doing it.
Nicely by Diana. Alright. Okay, this was well done. You use your Rain's ult, so they now know that you don't have any main tank ults. Also a thing that you can pay attention to, because they can be more aggressive just because of that. They still have 2 minutes, so they are not too eager to fight for the point, and if they are able to push in with their ults, then they can just easily win this. It's important to prepare for their aggression. That's what I'm trying to tell here. A nice bubble.
Yeah, and multiple times I forget the Ryan's ult and I keep on getting caught by it.
Yep. Nice kill on the Pharah. Oh, you're stalling nicely here. He was able to get behind you, but that's still fine. Okay, well done. I really liked how you prioritize the targets also. So from these guys in the enemy team, who you want to kill first? If you can just choose.
If I can choose, I would want the Rhine dead first because that's their biggest cover. But since he's on the other side of the cart and I need LOS, I just pick whoever's in my line of sight at that point in time.
Okay.
But then after that, Zarya is really important if I see she's kind of getting a lot of charge.
That's right.
Rhine can only do consistent 75 damage, so if I take out the Zarya, we only have 75 damage to worry about.
Yes, okay, so getting rid of the Rhine is not only important because of the shield, but it's also important because it denies ult charge and ult potential from the enemy team. After that, in a team fight, it's like you said, it's really important to get rid of the Zarya because she can stay alive for a long period of time, and she can also save her allies if they are around and do a lot of damage. So Zarya is a critical target that you want to get rid of as quickly as you can. This was well done here. It also, I mean, you have a Doomfist, so that is not as critical to break the shield and to make sure that the shield is dead, so to say, or the Rain with the shield. But in other comps, it is also important to break the enemy shield and get rid of the main tank just to open up space for your DPS to be able to do their work. So yeah, your judgment was right about that. Okay, how are you going to ult this? Because you have the ult. What are you paying attention to?
Honestly, here I don't think I was really even thinking about ulting. At this point. I think I was banking on us being able to do a dry hold and save my ult for, because theoretically they should have enough time for another one, and I'd save it for that. But also at this point, I don't think I realized my Rhine used his ult, so I was probably also banking on the fact he had his.
Yes, okay. Again, bit of a symptom of tunnel visioning. Check the tab screen a bit more frequently, just to make sure that you know what is going on.
So if I were to ult, I'd probably just try and put it... I typically try and put it on the payload, but at 40 seconds, it's probably best to put it off of the payload if they're grouped up around there. Just so that they're not on it.
Okay.
And the only reason I used it there was I wanted to guarantee a team wipe.
Yes, you were a bit far away and your soldier was already dead, so you lacked a little bit of DPS. I think your decision was right here that you used it. And they only have 10 seconds after that. They probably won't be able to get back in time. Or they will. Okay, that was a close call. Is it far not dying?
I honestly don't know. That frustrates me a lot, is whenever I'm supercharged and they don't go down, but oh, computer's going to sleep. I probably shouldn't have been focusing on the Pharah, more of the Zarya at that point in time, because she's going to do more damage than Pharah if she gets too much charge.
Yep. Yeah, she was constantly being healed, I think. Yeah, now they have a Lucio ult, so that's hard to fight against here. Also, I think that that is good to prepare for. If anything, as we discussed, the ones who are in the same roles, you can keep track of those. But if you can keep track of the support ults, that's also really important. Because they can, usually if they have a defensive ult, not just aggressive ones like Ana's Nano, then it can halt, push or save them. And it should tell you if you should use the grab or not, or if you should bank it or not. But here you are farming it really quickly and easily, so using it in every chance that you get, I think it's fine.
Yeah, in games that I find myself charging it really quickly, I do tend to use it more loosely. Like here, didn't really necessarily need to use it, but if I see I am charging it fairly quickly, I try to use it more often. It's in the games that I struggle to charge it that I tend to be way too passive with it. I don't really have this medium point that I end up using ults at.
Okay. Yeah. If you are able to charge it, then just use it in team fights to make sure that you have the advantage. That's fine. Because you have the Rain. I mean, if you are playing with an Orissa, it's a different story. But because you have to lock down ult, then you can be free to use it. Okay, they were doing a lot of damage here. And I mean, they pushed in without too much trouble, mostly because your Rhine died.
Yeah, Rhine just... Oh, he went in. Okay, I see.
Yes. Okay.
I didn't realize my Rhine had went in. I was wondering where he'd went.
Yeah, he charged in for some reason towards the other side of the map.
Yeah, that's what I was... With this Rhine, he would be aggressive at random points. He didn't really... He didn't communicate it either, which would have been nice.
Oh. Okay, yeah, this can happen. Your reaction was good though, pulling back. You just want to make sure that you don't expose yourself if you can do so.
Yeah, so I should have gone behind the payload.
Yes, yes.
So I at least would have had some cover.
Okay, and that's Panic Diva, I suppose, to try to
Yeah,
hold.
just trying to get there to stall because I'm not at this point worrying about who's already out there. I'm just trying to get onto the point.
And Farah works well against the Farah ult, so that's fine. That's a good pick here. Okay, nice pulling back instead of going in. That was well done.
I don't like being an aggressive baby diva. It never works out for me.
Yeah.
I see other people do it, but it's like, no, I'm just going to try and get my mech back. The only problem is I don't like going diva when there's a Zarya because she's just way too effective. But like I said, I just did it to try and stall.
Yeah, I think that's a fine thing to do. Diva can stall for a long time if she's not directly focused, or if you have healers who can just keep you up. You can mitigate a lot of damage that is being done to your team, so that's fine. And if you're able to farm up the ult, I mean, you can zone the enemy team, maybe get a wipe. That can happen. Okay, yeah, this is chaos here. Can't really do much about it.
No, it's just trying to stall point.
Alright, so this part, mostly the mistakes that were made are because of tunnel visioning and not having enough information in every situation. Making sure that you pay attention to the kill feed can help a lot. Tracking ults in the enemy team can help a lot, and also making sure that you know their positionings when you are in a fight with them. So don't just focus on a single target and ignore the rest of the team. Those were the biggest
that's my
ones.
most common issue everywhere.
Okay, let's see the second part then. Now we just skip to the beginning. Oops, it's a bit too much. Okay, so being aggressive here, farming the charge.
And here they went to a Bastien, which I never know how to deal with a Bastien without a Roadhog to just hook him out of turret form, or without a Farah who's able to land her shots.
Okay, Bastien depends on line of sight. If you can get close to him without being exposed, that's your best chance. You can either just jump him then and kill him outright because he won't be able to sustain himself, and the rest of the team is not for preventing damage up close, it's more for shielding the Bastien from damage that is coming from afar. So if you can, for example, pull in there and maybe get to the high ground and then drop, or if they pull even back towards the arc here, then dropping from this window or this window, you have a better chance of getting to the Bastien before he kills your team, because you can't really rely on your shields that much when you're against the Bastien.
Yeah, so if I had my other shield for my allies, if I had Rhine charge in and halfway through that charge I shielded him so he could pin the Bastien, would that be too much of an aggression, especially since they're already all around him?
I mean, if they have a Mercy, you can just boost the Bastien, you won't be able to save your Reinhart. Reinhart won't be able to get there quickly enough not to die in the process.
Okay.
In some situations you can pull it off. It's still a risky one. It is generally more recommended to try to rely on getting close to the nest that they have, with the means of breaking the line of sight, with the means of having a better position than the enemy team, and relying on your DPS who might be able to, I don't know, break the shields or ignore them and attack the Bastien from a different angle, for example with a Farah. You can just...
So would it have been even better to take the longer route going behind up to the top right, or like not where we're at, but going to even further back, and then going to the top, dropping down to this door?
Yes, yes. That's how you can do it. When the Bastien is setting up on a payload, on any kind of payload map, you usually want to make to just lay passively until the payload comes near enough that you can all jump together on the point. That's how you can deal with it.
Okay, so just stay out of LOS as long as possible to get as close as possible.
Yes, that's the general thing that you can do. If you have good DPS, you can just break the enemy shields. For example, if you run a comp with 3 DPS, 2 of them, which is Farah and Junkrat, and maybe something else, Roadhog for example, you might be able to break the enemy shields from afar without the Bastien being able to do damage, because he has damage fall off, and neither Junkrat nor Farah has that. So you might be able to break the shields and then charge in as the tanks. But that needs team coordination, and it's harder to rely on that. It's easier to drive your team behind cover and to get into good positions, because you are a tank. You are going to be in the front, and they are going to follow you in most cases.
Yeah, that's why I typically like. I would rather be the Rhine in most situations, because I like to. I don't. The Rhines I run into never really tend to think about trying to lead the team somewhere. They're more worried about actually just doing things themselves.
Yeah.
And I try and abuse the whole leading my team places with Rhine.
Yeah. Okay. So right here, most of your team is dead, so it's time to pull back. If you watch the kill feed and the death indicators around you, you should be able to tell it. I mean, it's a difference between life and death if you react 2 seconds earlier, because you can still get back behind cover. Yeah,
as soon as I saw 1 death and they're all there, I should have just pulled back, because they weren't going to survive.
Yes, if they have a lead of 2 players, you should start thinking about pulling back. If they have 3 or more, then it's time to pull back, because in most cases, unless you have ults that you can use against them, you won't be able to do anything. And now you have a Hanzo who picked the Bastien, so this is what I was talking about. A sniper who also doesn't have a damage fall off can do a lot of damage to the Bastien if you are able to break the shields. So this is another thing that you can do. Be really aggressive, try to break their stand, and then pick the Bastien with a sniper. This works against the other comps who create nests as well, but it's most prominent against the Bastien. So you either break the line of sight, move well, move around them, or go head front and try to break their stand.
Okay.
Alright, so you were able to do a lot of damage in the previous 2 team fights, and you already have the ult. So here it's a little bit difficult to use it. How and where you want to use it.
Yeah, basically you just wouldn't, at this point I don't think about using it, just because I only see 2 people. I know the Farah is in the air, but she's in the air, so it's not going to do anything. So since I don't know that they might be directly behind Ryan, but that'd be too big of a gamble. So, and we've already got them pulling back, so there's no need to use it at this point. My main focus is trying to make sure Ryan's going to get back alive by helping him out a little bit.
Okay, that's a nice read. I like that. Yes, you don't have enough information to just use it. It would be a waste to use it here, because of these corridor-like streets, it's hard to get a clear line of sight on the enemies with your DPS. So it's basically hard to use it here, but because you don't have enough information and the enemies are still far away from the payload, you can still push kind of freely, then that wasn't a good spot to use it. How about this one, where you actually used it? What do you think about this?
I didn't. If I just waited 2 more seconds, I wouldn't have used it, because obviously Farah ulted, and since I wasn't thinking about her ult being a factor, I figured we could. I saw 3 of them, 2 of them being the tanks, and if we could take them out, it would have made a stagger, and if they decided to try keep fighting, a little bit easier. But again, not keeping track of ults, and then I believe some of my teammates died just before I ulted.
Yes, they are not dead, but just laying on the ground because of the enemy Ryan's ult. So you couldn't really do much here because most of the team was caught by the shatter of the enemy rank.
Yeah.
So no follow-up there, and it's generally not recommended to use the Zarya ult when they are pushing this aggressively and you are the attacker. They just want to get a hold of the payload, bait some ults of them to be able to do that, and then strike back in the next team fight. That is like you do here. They don't have anything because they used basically everything in the previous one, and you could just hold the ult to make sure that if they have anything else, then you are able to dominate them.
Yeah, it's the lose a battle, win the war.
That's right, that's right. So if they are burning too much, if they are using too many abilities, too many ults, then that's fine, just let them use it, because on the long run you are going to be the victor. Okay. Yeah, couldn't do much here. A tiny mistake again that you are pushing, I think, in too aggressively. Here you can't really just use the shield to farm charge and you are at 0 charge. Because you are nearing the objectives. You want to start thinking about how to use it as a utility and not just as a tool to farm the ult charge. And you were a bit too exposed to my taste here. Again, the Rhine is behind you, the payload is behind you, you are exposed to most of the enemies. That's not the cause of your death here. You can't really do anything in the grab, of course.
Yeah, no, either way, if I was behind or with the Rhine, I still would have been in the grab.
Yeah, but generally it's easier to stay alive both for you and the Rhine if you are working together and if you are close together.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't really do that this game, because normally I do tend to do that, but this game I think is just his style was freaking me out so much, is like mentally preventing me.
You wanted to be the main tank.
Yeah, that's usually the role I do play, so when I play off tank I tend to be over aggressive. Like with D.Va, I'll be over aggressive because I typically play main tank, but
okay, so right here, this is a spot where it is still safe to use your own shield to gain charge, because you are still not getting into a fight with them. Reinhart is still hesitating to do that, so I would say that use the shield just to make sure that you have enough charge. At least have the 40 before you go in. Because if you want to measure it, I think it's more than the cooldown of the shield, what you are waiting here. And you could have used one to gain some charge and then have it ready for the next one. Okay, that's a good reaction. Pharah is ulting a lot. She's doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, she was one of our biggest problems.
Okay, this is nicely done here. Okay, most of the enemy team was wiped. They are all wiped. It's a team kill. Okay, you were able to farm the ult again pretty nicely. They are not focusing you. This is another thing that is important to pay attention to. If they are not paying attention to you as a Zarya, you can, you can abuse that.
I think that's probably also another reason why I'm so aggressive, is because I'm not really taking much damage, so I feel like I can go and do more, but realistically probably not the best idea, even if it is true.
Yeah,
because here I'm getting really low and I could have avoided a lot of that damage.
That's right.
Granted, it's giving Moira a lot of ult charge, but
yeah, but you also give ult charge to the DPS of the enemy team, which you can't really protect against. I mean, you have Lucio, I think, but he is going to have a hard time charging his ult still. Yep. So generally, even if you are just, I mean, this is true for every hero, that you want to avoid the places where the spam damage is happening. This zone here is you just think about how they are positioned and where they can throw things at you, uncontrolled damage. and abilities and stuff like that, and you don't want to be there. Only if you want to charge your stuff, but otherwise try to avoid those zones because you are eating a lot of free damage here. That's for sure. Not just because you are stepping in front of the main tank's shield, but also because you are, I mean, you eat a fire strike here, you eat an orb there. Damage that can be prevented, and that gives basically free ult charge because you could just dodge if you pay more attention.
Yeah, I don't even think about spam channels.
Okay. Alright, nice.
And there I wish he hadn't used Dragon because we already had it. But, you know.
Yeah, well, if you're...
I guess, well, as a Zarya, if I have a Hanzo, I just need to be conscious of if I use Grab, he's probably going to put a Dragon in it.
That's true, that's true. Oops. Ooped.
Yeah, I didn't realize the Lucy had come back so quickly. So I was playing a little too close to that edge. Also, I tend to forget that edge is even there because I'm not usually over there.
Yeah.
I'm usually on this left side.
Yeah. That's if they have a Lucio, and I think for anyone who can boop you, it's advisable to stay on the left side. Because then the payload can protect you against these kind of attacks. I mean, if you can do so, that is. But you can generally just use the payload. It gives a lot of protection against enemy damage that is not precise. So you can just dance away from rockets and grenades and stuff like that. And a lot of times you can stay alive for a lot longer time if you are using the payload. Also think that you need to pay attention to not to expose yourself if you don't have to. Okay, now
yeah, here I'm too far.
And it was a nice wheel.
Yes, it was. It was very nice.
Okay, you survived the grab mostly because they don't have they weren't able to follow it up, and you were able to shield most of the damage that came there, so that's fine. Or again ulting. Nicely done there. Another thing that can be used in situations like this is a technique that you launch the right click under the feet of the enemy, that boops them up a bit, and then you continue tracking them in the air. It makes it harder for them to aim at you and at the rest of your team, and it makes it easier for you to hit them because they have a flight path that you can predict easily.
That is something I never considered. I typically try and do a direct hit because I figure it does more damage.
Like here, like you do it against the Symmetra. You boop her into the air, somewhere around here, and then you can just track her for a long time because the boop is actually considerable. It launches the enemy in the air, making them an easy dummy to hit.
Yeah, I feel like I've done it before, but it's not a conscious, like, I should probably boop them in the air and get some free damage on them.
Yeah, it's not just because of your damage. It is really annoying to fight against because you are just constantly being booped to where you don't want to be. And, I mean, it's a psychological warfare of some kind.
Yeah, because I know that annoys me a lot when I don't know how I'm being pushed around everywhere.
Yeah. Can be used against easy to tilt enemies effectively. I really like to use it.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. If I'm getting like moved around way too much than I think I should be, I usually kind of lose focus a little bit and focus too much on how is it happening rather than, okay, it's happened, let's move on from that. I don't know how the Rhine survived.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that he was in the middle of the enemy team. I'm not sure how.
Oh, because Farah booped him out of it.
Yeah, he was booped out.
That was a team mistake there.
Okay. But still, he got caught, and that's... I mean, yeah, if he does brain dead charges like this, and you know it, that it is a habit of his, just keep the bubble. Keep the bubble when the enemies are approaching, because then the rain will need it. But yeah, you can't really count on that.
Yeah, at this point I should have definitely known he was gonna do something like that. And one of my other big problems is if I think I'm gonna I put myself in Ryan's shoes and I'm like, okay, this is what I would do, and so I expect them to do the same thing because that's what I'm thinking, but it's obviously not what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
and I do that way too often.
Yes, you can't expect. It's generally good to have a foundation to know the heroes and to know the general playstyles, but you should adjust that when you see how they are playing actually. Can't expect them to do well if you saw them doing these kind of mistakes again and again and dying to it. That's why I love Zarya, because in a lot of situations, if your teammates are bad, you can compensate with your shields and save their asses in a lot of times. Yeah,
that's why I like the combo with Ryan, because aggressive Ryans can really benefit from a Zarya.
That's right. They can farm a lot of ult. You can basically use each other's ult to farm yours. That's if you are with a Rain, that's a good tool to abuse against an enemy team who is not prepared against it. All right, now it's overtime. They are pushing the payload. How to win this? What do you think? What are your goals?
Well, since they still have the Pharah junk, I'd like to utilize that against them and get a lot of charge really quickly. And ideally, in this situation, I always go for the Rhine, but I know ideally it's probably best to get Zarya out, because then that's a lot of damage taken out. And while I'm taking care of that, or trying to take care of that with the Rhine, hoping that my DPS can take care of like the junk or the Pharah.
Okay. How do you use the ult if you have it?
Typically at this point, I almost always put it on the payload. Probably not the best decision, because if it's an overtime and I can get them off of it, it'd be best just to put it on a wall somewhere that they're near. But I always end up putting it on the payload, hoping that we can just team wipe them.
Yes, the first priority is not to pull them away from the payload with your grab, but to combine with your teammates in a way that makes sure that you win a single team fight, because that's what you need. A single team fight, wipe the full enemy team, and that's it. So your ult should be used in a... You should pay more attention to the combos when you are in overtime, because it gets more important.
Yeah, at this point I should be asking who's got what charge, or just hitting tab really quickly.
Again, you're a bit too close to the enemies
too far forward.
Yep.
Yeah, in games where I seem to be farming charge and ults really quickly, I tend to go more of the aggressive style. But also typically when I do that, my Rhine kind of follows me, so I end up being kind of the main tank, which really isn't the best idea.
That's true. Okay, hamster.
Yeah, this is another stall. D.Va's not going to get there as fast as hamster can, so I go as hamster, hoping that I can just get in there and stall, maybe use my shield advantage to stay alive on the point a little bit longer, but then the Rhine obviously negates that.
Yeah. Okay, so the enemies were able to push in for free from this point, basically. Can you tell me why?
We all got staggered pretty badly, and we didn't decide to just wait and group up.
Yes, this Mercury, for example, should just die.
Yeah, he's way far back.
Yes.
Either die or work his way without coming into LOS.
In most situations, it is advisable to just sacrifice yourself to the Blood God, because it's really hard to get back to the team when the enemies are there. Okay, yeah. They're trying to stagger really hard, but at this point, when you see that it is a no chance, you should just let it go, because you are feeding a lot of ult charge to the enemies, and they will be able to use that against you in the next fight.
Yeah.
And you sacrificed considerable amount of ult charge here. I think it was around 60% when you switched to Hammond. Something like that. Also,
yeah,
because Zarya's ult can really be the deciding factor in an overtime situation, I wouldn't sacrifice it just to gain more utility with a single hero.
It'd be better just to lose the point and have a more secure team fight.
Yes, because you are already staggering, and if you are able to group up and go in together and use the ult where the enemies are grouped up, then it would be more beneficial. You have a greater chance of stopping them. Okay, yeah. Basically the same mistakes. We were talking about avoiding spam damage. And also trying to adjust your playstyle to that of your teammates. I think those were the new things in this round. Any questions so far?
Not really. I mean, now that I watch it back, I'm realizing kind of what I did wrong. The only thing is am I going to remember that when I'm playing again? Is my big thing is, am I going to remember that I'm doing these things?
Yes, okay.
I just feel like if I put too much conscious effort into avoiding the mistakes, they're going to happen anyway.
The goal here is to have a single goal that you are working towards and to be able to measure it. So for example, here would be, I think the biggest thing is tunnel visioning. And I mean, this needs you to pay either really much attention to your game when you play it, or, which is more recommended, review yourself after you set your goals and watch a video and try to find all the times when you died and check if you make the same mistakes and if they are because of tunnel visioning. The way I do it is I have a sheet of paper and a pen and I just draw marks. I count the occurrences of the mistakes, and you should have a downwards trend if you pay attention, not to get caught off guard and not to get caught just focusing a single teammate and not paying attention to what is happening around you. This is the single goal that you have to keep in mind when you are playing. This will make your decisions tilt towards safer play and towards a play where you are depending more on information, or at least that is the goal. You might not be able to do it after the first game or the second, but you are going to have a trend with that. And just review a single game. You don't have to review it like this. You can just go like speed it up and just check your deaths, and that's fine.
Yeah, just try and remember what you're thinking at that point in time and just be like, okay, so I wasn't thinking this, so there's another tally mark.
That's right. And this is how you can actually improve, because if you want to pay attention to a lot of things at once, it's like you said, you are going to spend more willpower on trying to track your mistakes than on actually playing the game, and that will lead to a poor performance. You don't want that.
So you just want it as more of a subconscious, okay, I'm going to try and focus more on not tunnel visioning, gathering better information and using it better.
Yes.
Just as a subconscious, but still play the game without really thinking about it.
You can think about the single goal, but you shouldn't have more goals to think about. So you shouldn't mix things like, okay, I'm tunnel visioning and I'm dying because of that. This is one thing, and I'm also like paying attention to my ability control and to track the ults and all the stuff that we talked about. I mean, we talked about like 8 or 10 things here. You should just work on one at a time. And if you feel confident, if you see an actual measurable progress, then you can switch to another thing. And the first thing that you worked on will go to your subconscious. and it will help you getting better with the second goal, and so on and so on. And this is how you can improve.
So with priority as to what to focus on first, like with mine, it's somewhat ability usage, and then tunnel vision is the major thing. So would you just go after the thing that's the most prominent first?
Yes.
Or try and clean up the ones that are only minorly there and get those cleaned up quickly?
I believe in eating the frog first. So do the hardest thing first, because these kind of mechanical mistakes like ability control and stuff like that, these are small ones, and these are small pieces of the puzzle. If you are able to solve an issue with tunnel visioning, it will ease a lot of mistakes. It will sometimes help with getting rid of mistakes without even practicing exactly that. So for example,
it'll be a domino effect.
Yes. So if you are able to get rid of tunnel vision, this needs you to pay attention to what is going on around you and to the kill feed. If you are able to pay much attention to the kill feed, you are going to be better at predicting ults, and so on and so on. So yes, they all connected to each other, and that's why I think that working on the hardest and on the most prominent mistake is the way to go.
Okay.
All right. So let's see the last push here. I like this movement that you do with a shield. Well, they are doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, because they went with the Bastien setup again, which, like I said, it's the one thing, like a Bastien, unless we're on like a control point or something else where I'm gonna probably have a sniper or someone. On these, I don't typically get like Pharos or snipers or anything. I don't get anything to counter a Bastien. Like if I were on Hanamura, I would have had a Pharo or a Hanzo going up top left on the attack and probably taking him out. But here on these type of maps, it's like I don't know how to deal with a Bastien because I rarely get the perfect comp with a Pharo or a Hanzo.
Yeah, okay. So right here, when you using the knowledge that that you got from this review, how would you approach this now?
Well, after knowing what we talked about before, I just instantly, well, I'd hold up my shield. I'd try and flash my shield to get my teammates to go full right, or just go around the statue to the right and work a way around, and possibly either go bottom left or just top right there. But I would probably end up taking the right side because there's more cover. And once we come out of cover, we still have more cover than we would if we were going left.
So bottom right.
Yeah, bottom right, because we'd get closer to the Bastien. If we went left, we'd be too far. We'd still have the cover, but we'd be too far and he'd still be too effective.
Okay, yeah. The hard part in this is closing the gap between the statue and the door. So you might not be able to survive that. In this exact situation, it might be easier to do because the Bastien is basically blocking the line of sight with the taxi. So your team might be able to do just this. The safest thing to do is just go top here and hop behind them and drop them. Because if they don't react quickly enough, the only thing that you have to deal with then is the Pharah. But if they don't react quickly enough, you can just drop behind the Bastien and go ham. Yeah, going in straight is not a good option. Going in left side is you are not gaining any benefits. This is basically the same. So these two are the only viable options. Bottom right and top. Okay, good. Yeah, because when you are doing this, you are losing the shield or you are feeding a lot of ult to the DPS. And you can't really close this gap here.
And there I could have used the blind spot of the Bastien, just stayed kind of behind that taxi because everybody else wasn't doing the damage, it was him.
Yeah. And anything else that you spot here as a mistake?
Well, I should have just flashed like I normally do when I was coming out of the choke in the first time. I held it up too long, so I lost way too much shield.
Yep.
Than was really necessary.
Okay.
But going along with that, I was hoping my team would utilize that brief moment to kind of run behind me, but they didn't. So in the end, it was like I was trying to get my team over, but they weren't really going for it. So should have still just flashed it, because even flashing, they'll take some damage, but it won't be as much. I was just trying to negate all the damage, which wasn't really the best idea.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the team uses it and don't hold it up just to eat damage, which doesn't go anywhere. That's true. So you said the team didn't really follow you up. Then what are you doing there?
Yeah, again, I'm expecting the team to have followed me by this point, and I'm gonna try and get them over. But
okay, not
since
really.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot of situations. I'm expecting them to do something. I'm not communicating that expectation, and it's not going the way I have it envisioned going.
Yeah. Okay.
So here is more of a communication fail than really anything else.
All right. Yep. And you're also breaking the line of sight with your support, so you won't be able to heal.
Yeah. And I pushed a little too far forward. I could have stayed a little closer to the statue.
That's right.
Again, using the taxi as the blind spot.
As you can see, your Brig was just barely reaching the statue. The main healer and the DPS is back with the bus. So you were not really doing your job as a tank. You were pushing in, that's true, but you are not really making space for anybody here, only for yourself, which you can't really use. You need to rely on your team against the Bastien comp. Okay, now they changed their position a little bit. How to approach this one?
This one you could do left a little bit easier because he is a little closer, but it's still probably best to go full right and come out behind him and use that telephone booth as a slight blind spot.
Yes.
Or just come full top, either one.
Yeah, Faro helped you there a bit.
Yeah, but then I kind of negated the whole helping. I should have kind of held back a little bit.
And Mercy is rezzing the Bastien. Okay. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, so I think we discussed what you need to work on right now. So making sure that you are not tunnel visioning as much. And really the best way to measure this is when you die, try to think back if it was because of tunnel visioning, and just count how many times this occur in your game. So like do a live tally, and then if I'm recording, go back and see if the tallies match up. Yes, you can do that. If it takes too much effort that doesn't allow you to concentrate on the game, then drop the live one and just do the recording one every few games. As I said, you don't really have to go through the full game, just try to figure out why you died and if it was connected to tunnel visioning. But yeah, as I said, the easiest thing is having a pen and paper and just keeping a tally. Alright. Yeah, and I'll try and do that. Alright. Okay, so and we were discussing a lot of other things. If they come to mind, then work on them, but you don't really have to have them as a goal right now. So I suppose that everything that we are talking about, and this is why I need you to talk and to guide me through your thinking, is going to stick a little bit. Of course, if you are consciously working on them, they are going to stick a lot more, but we don't want you to work on these right now, at least not consciously. So if they stick, then that's fine. If you are going to have a better bubble control, that's fine. But your main goal here is to fix your tunnel visioning, because it will lead to a better overall performance, which is a better foundation for everything else.
Yeah, it's the if you can teach it, then you know it. So it's best if you can explain it, then you know it.
Yes, you just need to gain enough experience to be able to actually do it, not just explain it. Yeah, okay, I think that's all I had, unless you have any else or any questions.
No, not really. I mean, kind of asked them all during the session.
All right, I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
Okay.
I did indeed.
All right, thank you for your time, and yeah, just feel free to check back with me if you are doing this live tele, if you are having any issues with it.
Yeah, I'll definitely try and do more self reviews from here on out.
I'm anytime I play, just record.
I'll attempt to. Sometimes I forget to turn on my recording program. Should probably just have it turned on anyway.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard to commit to improvement because it feels boring, but it's actually a really the best tool to improve. All right, I was happy to have you.
I was happy to be here.
All right.